Yeah, branding.
All right, I started recording.
Okay. Well, thanks for the heads up. Although
Today
I'm
we'll be
glad.
talking about the fundamental qualitative and quantitative differences between Blistex and Carmex.
Right, and it's important for our users to know that Blistex is superior
Mm.
and effective.
Do you have any information or data to back that up, or is this purely an emotional plea?
Years and years of elaborate studies conducted by my lips exposed to various environments which bring different challenges towards a healthy smile.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why your smile's so beautiful, isn't it?
That's right.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
You got white person lips, though.
To say that they're thin?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
I mean, the bottom one's pretty good, though. Pretty kissable. Not by me. Unless I had to. All right, talk me into it.
I feel like this is a hostile work environment. Are you ready now?
I'm so ready, dude.
All right, well, hit me.
So we're going?
We've been going.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's do an intro so that we establish some
You guys want a specific color on the lights? Or you want them in front of the
red.
Yeah. More or less.
All right. Welcome to the Fat Man Little Boy podcast.
Wait, I'm genuinely confused as to who might be which.
That's the whole purpose, isn't it? Makes you wonder. Is it a height thing?
Well, they certainly can't see us, so they're not going to be figuring it out.
They can see us.
Are the cameras rolling?
This is a camera. Are the cameras rolling? Yeah.
Oh.
This is a visual podcast. People are going to see everything.
Is that an oxymoron?
Speaking of which, do you guys need to put some Carmex on?
No, we're on Blistex exclusively. We've been over this.
I forgot.
If we have conflicting sponsors, that might not go over well.
Hashtag Blistex gang all the way. All right. Cool.
All the way.
We'll commit to that together. So this podcast is going to be an exploration of various gimmicks, essentially, with the goal of narrowing in on a format that beats the Joe Rogan podcast.
Right, and the $100 million deal he did with Spotify.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get one of those a week.
Right.
That's my personal financial goal.
I mean, $100 million a week?
Yeah.
Easily possible.
Yeah, you think I'm lowballing it?
Probably.
Okay.
But I'm no authority on the height at which balls hang. So
yeah, you are. Actually, in a weird way. Aren't you?
I mean, yeah. Considering mine hang at a relatively fixed height.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
They're at the same height?
Well, no. But
No.
that's by design.
You designed that?
No.
Oh.
Our Lord did.
He took a special care to make sure the nuts hang at different altitudes.
Right. Well, I mean, have you ever seen those, like, noisemakers that are, like, essentially, like, clacking together?
Yeah.
That's undesirable.
Oh, and so that's the solution to it.
Yeah.
Genius.
Mm-hmm.
Intelligent design.
Couldn't be any other way.
Checkmate, atheists.
I mean,
Just look down. The proof is in the
broadly
pudding.
speaking, that's the one part of our body that we're trying to protect the most.
Yeah, some of us. Some of us are made very wealthy by desecrating their testicles.
Yeah, but I do think Steve-O is the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. We should invite him onto this podcast.
We should. And
have
I
him
also
teach
think
us.
we should lay some general ground rules of, like, not making noise on the table.
That would be a good,
I have no idea what that
starting
sounded
point.
like.
Also, less ball talk. I feel
That's
like we've
fair.
strayed into a testicular cul-de-sac.
Right, and we
should
don't want to
probably
alienate,
leave
a good
half of the population.
that doesn't have a testicular cul-de-sac.
Yeah. All right, so back to the podcast as planned, which do you want to start with your topics? So our topics that we have kind of thought about talking about have not been discussed to the other person. And we're going to see how that works. It might be a catastrophe. It also might be less of a catastrophe. I think those are pretty much the two options at this point.
Well, I'll give you 3 claims. I'll make 3 claims, and then you pick the one you want to refute the most.
Okay.
How about that?
Sure.
Okay, here's what I got. Survival economics are greater than salvation economics. Observation brings evil. And banning pockets doesn't work.
Banning pockets, like a legal
Yeah,
furlough on the existence of pockets.
right.
Well, I think that has the most potential out of those
Okay.
3. It's probably the most informationally dense at the very least.
Certainly, I read.
Would you like to shed
something.
some light on to how that is even a question?
Well, first we have to talk about the notion that the pickpocket is a champion of private enterprise.
Okay.
I mean, would you disagree with that?
I mean, he exists outside of the law, but at the end of the day, he's just a capitalist with a system.
Right. A system designed to accrue capital
Mm-hmm.
in his pockets
Yes.
from the pockets of other people.
Mm-hmm. Until he is pickpocketed by a superior pickpocket.
So while he's a champion of private enterprise, he is not a champion of private
Moral
property.
altruism.
And I do want to note, too, that while I'm referring to the pickpocket as with he, him pronouns, I do believe that anybody of any gender can steal from others.
I think that if you believe in yourself, you should go out and pick some pockets, no matter what's between your legs.
So back
Is that okay to say?
Well,
Probably
we've
not.
already left the testicular cul-de-sac once,
I just wanted to
and we
foray
found
back
our
into
way
it.
back into
Yeah.
it.
We'll probably come back a lot.
Right. I mean, according to Freud, it's what's generally on our mind.
Always.
And in your case, on your face.
I have nuts on my face. Okay, I don't even want to engage you on that point, but let's go back to the idea of banning pockets to solve the pickpocket problem.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
How do you know? Has this been attempted?
Well, yeah.
Is this a large chapter of history I just never
Probably.
learned?
That's the claim made is that, I mean, instead of exalting the private enterprise of the pickpocket and, just allowing them to do that, like that's one way of not fixing pickpocketing.
Mm-hmm.
And then another way of not fixing pickpocketing is the abolition of pockets,
Right.
which is compared to the sort of communist perspective of state centralized power
Right.
over pockets.
Right. This is reminding me of the Middle Eastern belief that you can eliminate male desire by cladding all women in non-revealing clothing.
Right.
Right.
And in clothing themselves in robes, they remove pockets.
So are you telling me that the Middle East has the lowest occurrence of pickpockets and
Well-
male and lustful thoughts?
Yes, but
They
only
might have
because
it
I'm
figured out.
assuming pickpocket translates to something else in Arabic.
Do we need to look it up? Jamie, pull that up. I guess I'm Jamie. We can't afford a Jamie yet.
I mean, I'm assuming that thief is probably a catch-all word. But there's something about the petty nature of pickpocketing thievery that makes me think it's not a perfect. It's like a subset of thief. One of those rectangle square things.
Oh, yeah. All pickpockets are thieves, but not all thieves are pickpockets.
Yes.
But what if you have to pickpocket to feed your family?
Well,
And by the way, there is an Arabic word for it. It's al-nashal.
that's
So-
pickpocket specifically?
Mhm.
Yeah, but see, that probably translates to, like, person who slashes coin purses.
Okay, so
something,
then I'll
you
just
know.
do a reverse translation from al-nashal back to English,
We've really come so far, haven't we?
and we're going to just figure it out. All right, hold on. We really need a Jamie.
I mean, I can go by
Al-Nashal.
Jamie. Being James, after all. We never introduced ourselves.
Right. Do you want to introduce each other, or do you want to introduce ourselves?
Each other. So that's Brandon.
You're doing
Keeper.
great. Yeah.
And son of people,
Right.
one of whom is a Buddhist monk,
Yes.
the other of whom is not, but
Right.
had a relatively Catholic upbringing,
Mm-hmm.
which probably makes for some interesting cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, I believe so. It has basically turned me into, I would say, an expert in Buddhism and an expert in Christianity.
Right. Well, thank God we have you here then.
Right. Mm-hmm. I think I can shed light on anything perfectly, first try, always. As long as it's within those two domains.
It must be nice to just live with such an all-knowing perspective on the world.
Yes, which brings me to James.
Right.
James is Catholic, born and raised in Havasu by two Catholics. I'm not sure why we're bringing religion into it.
Did you say Havasupai?
Havasu?
Oh,
Lake Havasu.
that's not true.
Well, this is my time, so you be quiet.
Yeah, but it's my introduction.
No, it's me introducing you. The validity of it has nothing to do with it.
Well, I hope
He's
that's
5'8".
not true. Okay.
He is
This
a
is
professional
slander.
bowler, and on weekends he pickpockets. So that's James.
All right. I guess I'll just roll with it.
Okay. Every time I introduce you, there will be one lie and two truths. This time was all lies, but in the future we'll aim for two truths and one lie, and then you, the viewer, get to interpret which is which. It'll be a great time. Well, so pickpockets are an interesting. That's a new sound. Do you hear the whining?
Oh, it's just a gas leak.
Oh, okay. We're
Yeah.
not concerned about that.
Yeah, this is a no smoking podcast, right? So we should be fine
And-
about
Yeah,
loose
hopefully it's
sparks.
anti-static too. Can static set off an explosion? Yeah.
I mean, if the gas station signs are to be believed, which they aren't.
They aren't. Don't listen to them. Smoke. Kids 16 to 21. Smoke a cigarette as you fill up your car while it's on and your kids are in the back. Trust me.
16 to
I'm an expert.
21?
Yes.
Those are the kids you're speaking to?
Yeah, that's the population I'm trying to cull with this.
It's our
public
key
service announcement.
demographic.
Yes. I think that probably
My only
might be.
concern is whether or not they are concerned with Blistex.
Mhm.
Because as our primary sponsor, we want as many people to be buying Blistex after watching
And
this
it's important to
podcast.
understand your target demographic. I have a feeling that we're probably going to play well in the 85 to 90-year-old lighthouse keeper category. That actually might be our only category for a long time. But we'll expand. We'll do some market research.
And whether or not pickpockets are among our audience probably depends on, what conclusions we arrive to on them in this episode.
Right, we might disenfranchise an entire subsect of our market demographic.
Right.
So we need to be very pro-pickpocket just to be safe, because we have no way to know if they might potentially be our primary listeners.
So, are you pro pickpocket?
I'm incredibly anti-pickpocket, actually. I think about it a lot.
Interesting.
You know why?
Because you have pockets?
Yeah. And I was pickpocketed
Right.
once.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was disturbing.
Was
Emotionally.
it like a pant pocket or like a backpack pocket?
It was a fanny pack.
Interesting.
It was on my front, too.
Interesting.
It was a really good pickpocket.
Wow.
You got everything
yeah,
out of there.
Must be.
Yeah, I had a hot dog in there. He took that. He left everything else, weirdly
I'm
enough.
no comment on that, on the contents of the fanny pack, but I have to ask, was it unzipped or like slashed into?
No, it was buttoned. It was
You have a
I
buttoning
have a
fanny
buttoning
pack.
fanny
Okay.
pack.
Not to victim blame, but it sounds like you were asking for it.
Really? Oh, okay. So that is victim blaming. And
Well,
I
what makes
specifically
you
got
even-
buttons because I thought it would deter pickpockets from eating my fanny pack hot dog. It didn't. Spoiler alert. And now I'm incredibly anti-pickpocket.
Where were you with this fanny pack?
I was in the Middle East.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When were you in the Middle East?
When I got pickpocketed. Are you listening at all? Pay attention, dude. Take this podcast seriously, please.
Yeah, that's my bad. That's
Yeah.
on me. Especially because I was actually the pickpocket.
Oh, shit. It
Yeah.
all comes full circle. What?
And this is a roundabout apology to you. And I'll buy you a hot dog.
Mm-hmm. I would rather you committed seppuku and or became a legislator and passed a pocket ban. I think that would be
Okay.
the greatest potential form of retribution for you.
So you think that pocket banding is an appropriate solution?
I
to
now think
pickpocketing?
that pocket bans are the only way to proceed.
So what would that look like?
Have you ever seen a dress without pockets? They just don't have pockets. Imagine something with pockets and then imagine it without them.
Yeah, but isn't that often like a complaint of the dress wearing community?
I don't know what to tell you, man. We all got to make sacrifices. These pickpockets are out of control. Something has to be done. All right, we've talked about pickpockets for long enough. I think that we do need that third party
Well, I will.
realigning force. That would be good.
Probably.
So 5-minute markers.
Whenever you guys start talking, I'll just leave the time and 5 minutes.
Okay.
Well, I will say that aside from the technical logistics of physical pickpocketing, it is again an analogy to like the
Something
sort
greater.
of I mean
Like
broadly speaking,
Socio-political implications, potentially.
socioeconomic. It's like the
Ooh.
capitalist communist
Mm.
solutions to things.
Like taxation. Is taxation not an allegory for pickpocketing? Some people would argue yes.
some people would.
And if they did, then the government will kill you. So never say that. For your own safety, please. Think of the children. But real talk, the taxation is theft. And I think the only thing that we could do to
Specifically
eliminate it is
pickpocketing.
eliminate money or bank accounts. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. You
Well-
gotta work with me. When I say dumb things, you have to
Right.
rephrase it in a smarter way.
Well, what is impossible to pickpocket?
a pocket.
Well, sure.
Oh, it wasn't a trick question.
No.
Oh, okay.
I was
Say
going to
what you
say
were gonna
something that doesn't fit in your pocket.
Ooh. Like
Like goods versus capital.
goods versus capital.
Yeah. If you're in the business of producing goods as opposed to producing capital,
Mm.
then you are probably, I mean, not as concerned with taxes because there will be rebates or subsidies for
So you're just
whatever
talking
you're
about
producing.
holding assets in non-liquid format,
Yes.
but the government can take that too.
Well,
They
how
do.
would you tax stuff?
You tax stuff based on the value of the non-liquid assets. Property taxes are an example of this.
Well, sure.
Oh,
But
and by the way, did you hear this crazy crap about how having a paved driveway increases the square footage of your house and increases the tax burden?
in
This is a thing,
every
and I'm outraged about it. And I think
case,
all
or-
gravel driveway owners feel the same.
Are you a gravel driveway owner?
Yes, but I don't want to be.
Hmm.
But that's the thing, is in order to stick it to the government, I have to have it.
So gravel doesn't count towards.
Square footage.
Interesting.
I know, it's interesting. But what are you going to do?
I mean,
I
get a
think
gravel
the
driveway.
government's probably pretty close to banning gravel. at this
Which
point.
government is this?
The big government. What do you mean? The
Like
United
state?
States government.
Is it Sedona City or?
I actually don't know.
Because that sounds like something Sedona would do, since they're so concerned with their lands and the looks of it. Home to, of
Yeah.
course, the single McDonald's that doesn't have golden arches.
I know, it's a major point of tourism for us,
I've been there,
and we're really
and
proud of
only
it.
there in
It's,
Sedona,
it's turquoise, and they paint it that way, and it's
because they have to.
amazing. If you ever get a chance to go visit the turquoise McDonald's arches, I can't recommend it highly enough.
Right, and that brings us to another sponsorship break. The McDonald's in Sedona with its
Yes.
turquoise arches. They don't actually pay us anything, but
No.
I do love McNuggets.
Sometimes they give me an extra McNugget, so that's pretty much our sponsorship. I
How
would
do you
say.
feel about McDonald's ranch compared to other ranches?
I have no opinion. Do you?
Yes.
Okay. Elaborate.
Well, I'd rather not.
Oh. Mm-hmm. It hits pretty close to home for you.
Yeah,
does it?
I mean, it's like a whole can of worms. That's like an episode in and of itself.
Yes.
The nature of ranch.
You do have these strange things that you're incredibly passionate about that makes no sense to
Right,
any rational
like
person.
the 17th Amendment. It's garbage.
I was thinking more about your long format essay on the last season of Game of Thrones that took 2.5 hours to get through.
Okay,
in
this
its
is
shortened
actually not
format.
something that we can get into right now.
I know, which is why I believe you about the ranch thing. So
Right.
let's just move right on. Let's gloss over that and talk about the Fermi paradox. No, let's go back to your thing. That's too heavy for now.
Well, the clunky's segue certainly
I
would.
warned you about the fact that I would probably utilize it.
So you don't want to talk about the 17th Amendment?
Is the pickpocket thing been a freaking
No, I want to
starter
talk
for the
about
17th Amendment?
No, but it's a starter for the 27th Amendment.
Okay.
Fun fact.
Let's work our way up
to the 27th Amendment
from the 17th.
Well, there's some stuff in the middle there that's like more or less not relevant to this conversation.
Okay.
But if we work backwards from where we are right now, the 27th is the most recent amendment.
Interesting. I lost count after 18.
Prohibition?
Yeah. That's all I really cared about. Once they repealed that, I was good to go.
Yeah, it was a rough life for you.
It was tough, I gotta tell you.
I thought you did pretty well as a bootlegger.
A lot of my friends went blind, but I did great. I didn't drink it.
Sure.
No, why would I? That stuff makes you go blind.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but the 27th Amendment,
Give me a
I'm not
recap.
exactly sure what it
Pretend
did.
that I'm a 5-year-old who has no idea what the 27th Amendment is.
Okay, so you're familiar with those pickpockets in the government that are stealing money out of your pockets?
Yes.
This amendment basically put a limit on, it prohibits any law that increases or decreases the salary members of Congress.
Ooh, okay. So that's been locked down for how long now?
That amendment passed in
Man, they had to pass that on themselves. That's interesting.
1992.
I'm kind of having a hard time believing that that is a real thing.
It was submitted by the first Congress in 1789.
And it took over 100 years to...
200.
200, sorry.
Yeah. 203 years.
Wow.
And then they're like, okay, yeah, we should do this.
And then they did it, and now they would probably regret it.
I regret it.
You regret it. You want to pay a higher salary to Congress and the House.
I think that unless they are fully enabled as pickpockets, then other more nefarious pickpocketers can say, oh, if you do what I want you to do, I'll fill your pockets.
Right. So it was probably one of those things where it was like, let's patch this hole so people think that we're on the up and up, but low key there's a lot of other loopholes that we can
If your
exploit.
congressperson was paid $10 million a year,
He wouldn't give a shit about
well, wouldn't you
lobbyists
probably
and
be a little
backdoor
bit more
deals.
concerned about what they're doing if they're taking $10 million a year?
They are taking $10 million a year. Some of them,
Not
at least.
from you. Well,
No,
not
from
directly.
corporate lobbyists.
Right,
That's the problem.
right.
What are you gonna do about that?
So if they're taking money out of your pocket, you're concerned about what type of actions they take.
I think that they're more highly incentivized to work for our ends, right? If we pay them
And
better.
we're less incentivized to be apathetic towards their goings-ons.
In theory, although I don't know if you're going to see that actually happen in practice. It feels like people are only non-apathetic when there's a doomsday scenario on the near horizon, like right now.
Do you know what the salary of the president is?
It's not like $400,000,
Mhm.
but he gives it away though.
This one does.
Yeah,
He's got money.
yeah. In an effort to show us that he isn't corrupt,
Right.
he gives it back to the people.
Is it
Do you
working?
believe him? Do any of us believe him? There's not a chance. I mean, some do.
Some do.
Mm-hmm.
More do.
A lot do.
So the 27th Amendment, to repeal it, would require a constitutional amendment, which requires a 3/4 majority either among state governments or in the Congress.
So let's take a step back to, is it a good idea to actually repeal this? This seems like one of those things now where, now that they have opened new income streams through backdoor deals with corporate lobbyists and stuff like that, increasing their actual compensation via salary will just open up a new revenue stream for them. I mean, that Pandora's box has been unlocked, and the only way to address that now is maybe simultaneously repeal that amendment, but put forth another one which increases restriction on corporate lobbying.
or even like campaign finance, because that's where I think a lot of the like dark money comes in. So, I mean, part of the appeal of, you know, a Trump and even a Bloomberg is that, oh, we can't be bought, we have enough money ourselves.
Right.
So if every person running for office is freaking loaded, then
Problem solved. Corruption gone. Done. Put a bow on it. You heard it here first.
and then you run into the problem of how do you make it less restrictive for people to challenge a incumbent that's running for office.
Well, addressing gerrymandering is probably one of your first steps.
Well, yeah, but I think before that it's just a matter of like who's able to enter the race, you know.
It's 5.
On the 17th.
Gotcha.
Or no, that's the 27th still.
I don't know. I don't know crap about this stuff at all. I'm just hanging by the seat of my pants right now, dude. I'm a political sciences major.
So,
So,
if we accept that the Fermi paradox is not true and the aliens have made contact,
well, the Fermi paradox is true regardless of whether or not there are civilizations out there in greater numbers than.
but it would be irrelevant if we were already in contact with aliens.
I mean, possibly. There could still be less than there should be. So, just as a backstory, the Fermi paradox is in astronomy the theory that that points out the inconsistency between the apparent lack of intelligent life in the universe and the proposed plentiful amount that there should be.
So if
There should be
there
tons
are
of life out
aliens out there, where are they?
That's the question. There should be life, there isn't. So why is that the case? I think the Drake equation. Have you heard of the Drake equation?
I've not.
So the Drake equation is an equation, sort of a napkin back calculation, taking in certain factors like number of stars, likelihood of a terrestrial planet to form around them with water on it. You know, it makes assumptions that we have established about our current understanding of what life needs, at least complex intelligent life. The Drake equation proposes that there should be like millions of civilizations out there, like at least millions, and you can play with the numbers.
With how
and
many
bring it up to a
habitable
lot.
planets that allow for multicellular organisms to develop and thrive.
So that's one of the variables. That's FP, the fraction of those stars that have planets. And then there's NE, which is the average number of planets that can potentially support life per star that has planets. So these are numbers you get to play with. So you can even bring that number way down, right, to like 1% or 0.1% to something that you think could be reasonable.
So
And the number still is like thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
is this worth doing on the back of a napkin?
If you have a big enough napkin, then you're welcome to try. But it's easy to do. It's
At what point does it
there's
become like
7
a
numbers.
bona fide piece of paper?
Depends on, I suppose, the intended use. So a napkin not intended for mouth use is just paper. I'm glad we got that cleared up. We're really tackling the hard hitting
I'm wondering,
questions
like
here
napkin
on
back,
Fat Man and Little Boy.
napkin back calculation.
Yeah. It's just a term used to describe something, an equation carried out in the moment without precision being too relevant.
Sure. Okay, so when you're just like kind of ballparking things by
Ballparking
order
it,
of
yes.
magnitude.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Drake equation says there should be lots of life. There isn't. Enter the Fermi paradox. This series that I just read called Three Body by Qixin Liu is a great. It presents a theory that attempts to explain the Fermi paradox and kind of figure out, answer the question, where is everybody?
Sure.
And it's interesting. So it proposes this theory called the dark forest theory. And the
Dark force?
the dark forest. And the dark forest theory is basically, in a nutshell, every advanced civilization can't be too sure of the intent of any other advanced civilization, and has to assume worst case scenario about their intentions, i.e., everyone probably is malevolent, rather than being benevolent. And so every civilization in the universe is hiding itself. They are, in this analogy, a hunter sneaking through the dark forest and killing anything they see.
What makes that like why the assumption of malevolence?
So it comes down to disparities between sort of belief systems and cultural differences between civilizations. So look at how vast the discrepancy between cultural practices and sociological mindsets are between different cultures on Earth. Now imagine a life form that is silica based rather than carbon based, and maybe has a brain that exists in a cloud of plasma. I mean, their sociology will be so different from ours that even if we spent years and years interacting with them, it would be hard for us to truly gauge their intentions, and at a high enough certainty level that we were comfortable that we weren't going to get wiped out by them at any point in time. There's too much difference between these civilizations, in other words, and there is no way to, with a high enough degree of certainty, predict their malevolence or benevolence. And so the safest method is to always strike first and fast when you learn of the existence of another civilization.
Did you hear that Pope Francis said that he would baptize an alien?
I didn't hear that. Recently?
Yeah.
Huh. Under what context? Was it just like a
If it wants
drunken
to join
tweet?
the church.
Oh, he's inviting aliens to come
Right, and be
participate
in
in
the Catholic
our
Church.
human religion.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's that universal.
I wonder if aliens came and they started being baptized into the Catholic Church by Pope Francis, would they do what like Korean communities do, where they have like a Korean Jesus, but it's like an alien Jesus?
I mean, they very well might. And I
That would
think
be cool.
every religion might claim some amount of universality, right, to their particular way of thinking. And the point I'm trying to arrive at is that you mentioned earlier that among people in different cultures, there's such a high variance that we're almost assured that anything that exists elsewhere would be so variable that we could not understand it.
Yeah, we couldn't accurately predict
And
their
I would
intentions.
argue that as a species, we're pretty much the same.
Absolutely.
And that advanced life, or anything that we could recognize as advanced as ourselves, would be nearly identical or similar enough to relate to.
I can't agree with that. There's no way.
All right, well,
I mean,
that's
look
5
at the
minutes.
biodiversity on Earth. So primates happen to occupy the intelligence niche first, right? So there's this proposed idea of an intelligence niche. You have different physical adaptations that occur evolutionarily to fill different niches. So the kingfisher's niche was small minnows swimming around near the surface of water. There you go. He exploited it and he dominated that. Our niche that we filled was the cognitive niche. We think better than everything else, and that put us on top of the food chain. But it didn't have to be us that occupied it first. It was a race, and our ancestors did it first. Who's to say that on another planet with a similar sort of biodiversity spread that the squid people didn't do it first?
Well, couldn't we say that it had to be primates and it will only ever be primates because things like opposable thumbs and bipedalism are required in order to
For our habitat?
look, feel, and gaze?
What if it's an underwater civilization? Bipedalism is irrelevant.
Well, I
and
do
all you
feel
need is
that
high
octopi
manipulation.
are the most likely
They were probably the front runners for
advanced
filling
intelligence.
that cognitive niche if we hadn't done it first.
But
Absolutely.
that's where, I mean, the precursor of advanced intelligence or advanced complex alien societies is like,
So you're
I wouldn't
proposing
be surprised.
convergent evolution. That's, I think, what
Yes,
you're aiming for
exactly.
right here. So it's the theory that if you look at the morphology, like, xenology is actually a science being taught right now in universities. I mean, it's all theoretical, but it uses logical progressions that make it relatively valid, we think, probably. We won't know until we find aliens. But the premises that they go through is something like, okay, an intelligent being is likely to have most of its sensory organs in one place, because you only then have to protect one place in like hostile interactions and stuff like that. So we see that on ourselves. We have most of our sensory organs packed into one compartment, and it is all around our brain, our thinking apparatus, because then it shortens the amount of distance between the sensory collection and the sensory processing. So there's a good chance that most intelligences
Have
that we
a head.
see have a head. where that head is probably far away from the ground. You don't want it scraping on the
But
ground. and getting
either way, it
damaged.
will be able to interact with electromagnetic radiation, vibrational waves, taste things and smell things.
Possibly things that we can't really interact with well. I mean, you just said electromagnetic radiation. Do we interact with electromagnetic radiation? Is that
Yeah,
a
we
sense?
see it. Isn't that what rods and cones are?
Right. So, magnetic information, I guess, which is what I was thinking you were talking about.
So I think our particular blend balance of five senses is where I would expect convergence.
Very possibly. And if they're land bound, then locomotion is probably bipedal because it's highly efficient. It's basically the least amount of legs you need to go fast and escape issues.
So now
Manipulators?
I want to offer up a theory that in science fiction, the most accurate aliens are the ones that are made with the worst special effects. Because CGI allows for these wild approximations, whereas like the OG Star Trek aliens are basically people in some degree of makeup.
Yeah, it could be. We'll see. I mean, it's hard to predict all of the different environments that could potentially harbor life that achieved cognitive dominance over that niche. I mean, we just found out that there are gas phosphenes in Venus's atmosphere. This is the new big potential discovery that's kind of tripping everybody out. And gas phosphenes are byproducts of biological processes. That's one of two ways that we see their production here on Earth, and they are all over in our atmosphere. And some visual light analysis or something like that of Venus's atmosphere has produced that. So now we have to consider, what if there are intelligences that have evolved in something like an acidic atmosphere? So the least hospitable environment on the planet, on Venus, is probably high in its atmosphere. Because
You
the
mean
Earth,
in the solar system?
on Venus, no, specifically.
Okay.
The least hostile place for life to
Is it
grow on
in
Venus
the upper levels
is in
of
the
the
upper levels of the
atmosphere?
atmosphere,
Sure.
where there's the least amount of acid rain and 400 Celsius burning rocks.
Right.
And so, life finds a way, man. And if it's going to be presented with all sorts of different environments that it then has to achieve cognitive control of with those variables present. So no ground, locomotion is going to be gone.
So can we assume that any single-celled organisms would not have cognitive control over anything?
Yes, I think so.
So would you consider those aliens?
They're alien life. I mean, an
Single-celled
alien
organism?
dog is still an alien.
Well, dogs have more than one cell.
I understand that. But what we're really talking about is hyper intelligent, or at least intelligence parity with humanity. I think that's what we think about when we talk about aliens. But aliens is just life that existed outside. I mean, the implications of even just gaseous single-celled organisms in Venus's atmosphere has a lot of implications over religious stuff on Earth, right? I mean, like, the Catholic Church might have to reconsider some stuff.
Sure, but that will only be done when those aliens are baptized in the faith.
Can you baptize a single-celled organism?
You'd have to ask Pope Francis, but it sounds like, yeah.
You just need a really tiny fountain.
Well, I have heard that all dogs go to heaven.
Is that canon? Is that Catholic canon?
I think it might actually be.
Is that the right term for that?
It is actually. Canonized
Interesting.
means, I think that's where it comes from. Well, because canonized means to be made like a saint.
Interesting. I never knew that. I thought it was just like nerd stuff.
I thought it was being put in a canon and
Yeah, launched into the universe.
through.
Yes. Our
Yes, probably. Assuming the church is owned to canon.
what? That's deep, man.
There's probably a patron saint of canons or canon operators.
I actually know who the patron saint of cannons is. Me.
Okay, that concludes our. But we
We'll just
actually
cut that
did
out.
circle near near another one of the points I brought up earlier of observation bringing evil.
Observation bringing evil.
Yeah,
Okay, so evil can't exist without observation.
yeah.
So that would imply that evil is an attribute that we give to things.
Yes.
Yes.
That the observer gives to things.
Mhm.
And nobody
Absolutely.
gives themselves evil.
And evil changes.
Nobody wills to do evil.
I would disagree with that.
Who does evil in their eyes?
I'm not saying that I specifically know of individuals, but I definitely believe that there are people who act knowing that they are perpetrating evil because they like evil.
Not
right?
for some not for some greater good that others might view as twisted.
I mean, haven't you seen like all of the cheesy action hero movies where the bad guy knows that he's bad, but he's bad because he likes being bad? Have you ever met a bad boy? I don't think you have, dude.
Yeah, and don't those always end with you find out the bad guy has, rough
He's
home
just
life
misunderstood.
or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
is actually just acting out, but is
Most of the
fundamentally doing good by their definition.
What about people
Or
like
trying to do good.
that are like human trafficking, like people that like torturing people? I mean, they probably aren't like torture's just misunderstood. They know what they're doing and they know that it's bad, but they get a kick out of it.
Yeah, but they would never call themselves evil unless it's some sort of like
Dude, have you ever been on
masochistic-
4chan?
I mean,
People
no.
actively call themselves evil and they enjoy the
Yeah, but they're
position.
just masochistic masturbators.
Okay, so masochism exists though, and so does sadism.
Yeah,
And sadism is the gratification of inflicting pain on others.
sure.
And you have to understand that pain is bad to the person.
But wouldn't
So at the
they-
very least,
might
you understand
they say
that they might perceive it as
pain
evil
is
what
a
you're doing
tool
to
for
them.
teaching?
I don't know.
Have you heard of the movie Whiplash?
No.
It's like
This
this
conversation's giving me whiplash, though.
It's like this band director who abuses the shit out of this kid to like make him better
And stronger and faster and
at
the best trombonist the world has ever seen.
drums.
Oh, okay.
So you do need to be fast and strong,
You do.
right?
Yeah.
So it's good for this kid that he was abused.
I'm glad he was abused. Let it go on the record that we are glad that that kid was abused. It was for his own good. Right? Now he can play the drums. Good.
Right.
He might
and
have
so we
hundreds of
that
thousands of
band
dollars in
director is
therapy
not
then.
evil until somebody observing the situation, i.e., the audience member, says, "Wow, that guy's pretty evil."
Mm-hmm.
But up until then, he's just helping out that kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
I
until
think
his
that-
tactics are observed that he
I think
becomes
that it's
evil.
fair to say that given the vast distribution of human belief systems, personal human belief systems that have existed in the billions of humans that have ever existed, some of them like doing evil shit. How about Vlad the Impaler?
Right.
You really think he was like, oh man, they'll thank me one day?
But most people aren't Vlad the Impaler, and that's why that's
Most
still a
people,
rule
right.
we can operate under.
Okay. It's a generalization that we can operate under.
Right. Which is all we can operate under. We need generalizations to operate.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, we need to assume that people stop at stop signs in order to drive a car.
I assume that people won't stop at stop signs. Do you not?
Well, it must
I
be
always
a
make sure that
torturous
there's not some...
journey for you to leave the house.
It is, but I'm alive. I'm stronger than I've ever been. No, I mean, assume that people aren't going to follow the rules and follow the generalizations, but operate the best you can. But at the same time, I still do get in a car and drive some places, and risk is there. I could die at any point in time.
Risk
And then
is
I wouldn't
there,
have to be
but
on this
you
podcast
can
again.
do it because, generally speaking, it's safe.
Generally speaking, it's safe.
And so, generally speaking, observation brings evil, and evil does not exist until it's observed.
Is that where the old saying comes from, that all evil needs to persist is the apathy of good men?
Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
think it's
butchering
like the
that.
bully example, or it's like the bystander, Schrodinger's. Yeah, because it's if it's unobserved, then the intentions or actions or outcomes can't be determined. But once observed, the observer has an obligation to condemn, validate, or
Yeah.
observe, right?
Okay. I think that you're wrong, but I respect your right to have a wrong opinion.
Hey, man, we're rolling. All right, well, for our third and final commercial break, I will say that, again, Ballistex is the superior lip-saving device. Balm. Balm is a weird word.
Balm is a balmy word. It's kind of like how luxurious is a luxurious word, right? It just kind of like blows off the tongue.
Yeah.
Luxurious. Anybody else feel that? A tremor? A sexual tremor?
And now I'd like to welcome
Dude, that'd be a good band name.
Sexual
By the way,
Tremor.
Sexual Tremor. Hold on, I'm writing that down. We haven't yet. You're sure that exists? Well, a lot of these probably exist, but you know, we're independently rediscovering important things, and that leads us to the plug for our new website, fakebandnames.com.
Did we register that domain name?
I have it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, there's nothing on it at this moment.
On Sexual Tremors?
No, on fakebandnames.com.
Oh.
There's definitely sexual
Nothing
tremors.
but sexual
There's
tremors.
nothing but sexual tremors in this environment. Dude, look at this red light. This red light. Dude, red lights are...
Districts.
Districts.
Right.
This is a brothel, basically. This is an intellectual brothel.
Right.
That's hot. Intellectual brothel? What would an intellectual
Well,
brothel
that's
even be?
there was this article I read that
Get mind fucked all the time. You gotta pay the right price, though.
the true mark of a society with liberty is that ideas are free to have sex with each other.
Ooh, yeah. I like that.
Mhm.
Is there a name for that principle?
Intellectual brothel.
Intellectual reproduction. I like that. Sometimes ideas should use condoms, though, because the children that they produce are fucking ugly. Like the idea to have this podcast. Oh my god. I think we're doing great.
Probably.
Probably.
Not. So the last point I do have, I don't know if you brought much beyond the Fermi paradox.
No, yeah, as I told you, I did not prepare like I said I would.
The last point I have is on survival economics versus salvation economics.
Yeah, so what is that?
So salvation economics is like the idea, oh, if you follow the 10 Commandments, like, you'll be saved.
Okay.
So
A contractual obligation where
towards salvation.
Yeah, where the final prize, the deliverable good,
Right.
is eternal salvation for your mortal soul.
Yeah, and like with the 10 Commandments, the 7 deadly sins, you have like some idea of, oh, if I spend this much time sinning and this much time doing this much good, there's like some sort of formula
Yeah.
that results in salvation or damnation.
Right. The scales of Hades.
Right, or it's like some sort of broad karma, like bad, good.
They weigh your heart against a feather, and if the feather is heavier, then you go to the good place. But if not, you go to the bad place.
Is that the Hades test?
I can't remember the name of the guy who does the testing. Is it Anubis? No, those are different mythologies.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I have the internet in front of me, but I'm too lazy to look it up. So let's just proceed.
However, I think for those that live on the edge,
Ooh.
as we encourage all of our listeners to
Yes. Especially ages 18 to 21. Live on the edge.
Right. Often seems that survival outweighs salvation.
Survival outweighs salvation. I don't understand that.
When you're living on the edge,
When you're living on the edge. So the desire to survive outweighs the desire for salvation?
Yeah, like you'll do a bad thing if it's for your
feels-
survival.
Oh, okay.
Like you'll
Steal
violate
for
a
your
10
family.
commandment if you'll steal a piece of bread to feed your family.
And then certain people would advocate that that's still no excuse. That
Yeah.
you're still going to get the Satan spanking on that.
Right. And so, I mean, I guess I am wondering if you think more people put more weight in survival economics or more people put more
I think
weight
people
in salvation
should
economics.
put more weight in survival economics.
You think people are overly concerned with salvation economics?
Yeah, and that's just from a deep-seated belief that I like doing evil things.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's a lot of us
I
that
haven't
believe
observed
that.
you doing any
There's-
evil things.
Okay, then they're fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Everything I do is just A-okay then.
All right.
Yeah, like I slashed your tires 5 minutes ago. How do you feel about that?
Is that what you stepped out for?
Mhm.
Interesting.
It's evil now, though. Now that you know about it.
Right.
Whereas if I hadn't told you, it wouldn't be evil.
Right.
My action would never have been evil.
No,
because I wasn't observed
and
doing
I would have
it.
pegged it on, some hooligan that was not sitting in front of me 5 minutes ago.
Right, as you should.
Right.
Because hooligans are rife in this part of town.
Which part of town?
I don't know, wherever we are.
Where am I?
I don't know, Hooligan Central.
Um,
I honestly
So do
don't
hooligans-
really believe in salvation. So
so
that's going to weight my belief. That's going to weight my jurisdiction.
do pickpockets believe in survival economics or salvation economics?
Survival economics. Unless they think they're pickpocketing for the pickpocket god.
What is the person that does pickpocketing of salvation coins?
He runs a church. Topical. No, for real.
Yeah.
Like the mega churches and the pastors
Sure.
that are, not paying taxes and making millions and millions of dollars, have private jets.
So
What do you think they're doing? Is that salvation economics?
are those people then cheated in salvation?
So isn't salvation subjective?
Well, if they believe they're going to be saved, then isn't it the same outcome as anybody that believes in a legitimate church or?
What qualifies as a legitimate church?
Well, probably just quantity.
Tax exemption status from the United States government?
I mean, I would say it's a matter of at this point, Mormonism has to be taken as legit.
It has been for quite a while.
Right, but it wasn't in 1893 when people were like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, when it was still their scripture was
Right, and
in recent
in the
memory,
year
and everybody was
30
that didn't
AD
happen.
when Jesus was like, "What's up, fam? I'm the Son of God."
Yeah,
People were like, probably not though."
yeah.
And then
what are the chances?
at what point did Christianity then become legit versus a cult? I mean, you could it's
After the
always
Crusades.
always a cult.
After
always
they killed a
cult.
bunch of people who said it wasn't real? I think that's a fair thing to say.
Or was it when the Emperor of Rome converted to Christianity?
Constantine?
I think that was Augustus
Okay.
or Augustine.
Sure, yeah. I mean, what gives anything legitimacy is a
Quantity.
majority belief in the population, right?
Yeah.
Quantity of believers.
So if everybody believes they're being saved by some televangelist,
Right.
then is that televangelist not doing exactly what they're paying him to do?
I
Convince
guess.
convince them that they're being saved?
Twisted way. Yeah. Yeah, he's also draining their coffers. He's
So what
pickpocketing
about-
them? Spiritual pickpocket.
Let's take it all the way then to Jonestown. That man is
Let's.
instantly fulfilling on salvation
He
promises.
said we're all gonna die.
So
and they
I'll
did.
kill you right now, and we'll just get to our salvation
Yeah, why
right
wait?
away.
Yeah, it'll be great. Take a little shortcut.
It's 2-day ship. It's the prime of salvation economics. Amazon Prime.
The Amazon Prime of salvation economics. That's interesting. I think that we're gonna
It's the
probably
best-
see that in the next couple of years.
So
there.
does that then make it so? Let's say any sort of suicide, bomber, kamikaze sort of thing. If you're told to martyr yourself, that's often because it's the fastest path to salvation,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. They also, do really awful things to those kids and brainwash them and indoctrinate them and beat them up, and it's not good. I mean, so only a couple of people believe that
So is the
suicide vests
bomber
are a good way to get salvation, right?
So is that person?
So they don't have the minimum amount of populist belief that we have already characterized as being necessary for salvation to be real.
So is that person
Or believed to be
observed?
valid.
Is a suicide bomber observed to be evil, or are they observed to be a product of some evil
So right, this all comes down to evil is subjective, right?
to the observer?
To the observer. You can't have subjectivity without an observer.
You can't have evil without an observer.
Exactly, because they're both functions of the same process, which is observation.
So we've come to an agreement on all of the points I brought to the table today.
It felt like we disagreed on everything. But
But
that just
we
might be because we...
Agree that banning pockets doesn't work.
Okay.
We agreed that observation brings evil.
Not at all. Continue.
Well, and then we did also, I think, agree that survival economics outweighs salvation economics.
Okay, that was your belief system? Cool. The second one, I still feel like it was very clear I disagreed with you on that.
The observation brings evil?
Yeah.
Because sadists exist.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm one of them. And I slashed your tires. And I'm sorry about that. But I had to prove a point.
So you're not a sadist.
Damn it! Beat me at my own game, man. All right, that concludes the podcast.
I suppose so.
I'm going to go get into the pot of shame and deal with it.
Think about what we've done.
Yep. And think about things to talk about next time.
Since we're going to be the only ones thinking about what we've done, as I assume the only watchers of this episode.
Probably. I hope so. Jesus Christ. You think other people might watch this, dude? That's a terrifying concept.
Right.
All right. Well,
Bye.
One thing for sure, this is the only podcast I've ever actually watched all of it.
okay.
It's not just because I'm behind the computer with the switcher.
It was
That's
engaging.
encouraging.
We have one vote.
Yeah.
I'm going to invest everything I have in it.
Well,
now.
till next time then, right?
Yep. Until next time, Fat Man and Little Boy signing off. Are we Fat Man and Little Boy? Yeah, we're doing that. Cool.
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you.
How long was that?